when I was 20 years old in 1972, I decided that I loved Baudelaire and that I had to come to France to study French poetry and literature and French music. But I learned what was really important in life, and that really was to be able to communicate with music and with poetry. You have a beautiful thought, or you have a sad thought, and then you communicate it to the public. The most important thing is to communicate the essence of that poem and of that music intact to the public. And so, many years later, but not that many years later, I was about 26 when I decided I was the head of the largest classical music radio station in the United States. But don't forget, I grew up with satellites. And so I said, this is ridiculous. I'm doing all of these, what I thought, wonderful programs, but for a very small audience in Washington, D.C. And so I said, I will now put all of my programs, all of my radio and television programming, I will put it on satellite, and we will send it all across the United States. So I did that when I was, 26 years old. And I really became the first superstation in the United States before Ted Turner. So, from a very early age, entrepreneurship, was in my DNA. At age 5, I was doing lemonade stands. Now, in America, this is what all young Americans do. And, my father told me, okay, Candace, you have to do your marketing plan. And this is at age 5, and you have to figure out where you're going to put your lemonade stand and how much you're going to have to pay to get the lemons and the sugar. The water was free. And so, at a very early age, I was figuring out, okay, I've got to make money. How am I going to make money? How am I going to make a profit? Where am I going to put my business? Same thing when I became a class officer. I ran for a class president. I had to have marketing collateral. I had to have a slogan. I had to have a platform. What was I going to bring, to everyone? And so this is the way I grew up. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. Going and giving speeches and coming home and showing my husband, the program. And he would say, Candace, do you realize that you're the only woman on the program? And I said, whoa, I didn't realize that. Being an entrepreneur is, in a way, it's a very fortunate thing to be. It's not so much if you're a woman or if you're a man, but that you do have this idea and that you want to make certain that your idea happen. I have never been one to be in a management hierarchy. I have always been an individual. I've also always been the president, or I've worked right underneath the president. It was only until I got to about the age of 40 that I realized that not everybody had been brought up the way that I had been brought up, and that not everybody had been fortunate to have the exposure to excellence and to incredible leaders, be they men or be they women. So it was at that time then that I started the Global Telecom Women's Network. And I'll never forget the day, here again, I was giving a conference, a speech at a conference. And instead of being the only woman, there were 5 women. And so I said, wow, this is so great. We'll start the Global Telecom Women's Network with 5 women. And we did that 27 years ago. And, we have just grown, and, we've tried to be role models at once, and then also to be mentors for the next generation. And we've also built a brain trust of really the finest minds around the world, where we can converse with each other in a very uncomplicated way. And, then about 7 years ago, two young New Zealanders, they were 30 at the time. So they were the age that I was at when I started Astra. And I had been giving a speech at the ITU on internet and satellites. And so they came to me and they said, wow, that's so cool. You're doing internet and satellites. And we in New Zealand, we don't have good internet connectivity. And so we're going to go to Australia and ask them if they can give us some satellite capacity. And I looked at them and I said, don't be ridiculous. I said, just start your own satellite system. And so we started Skyping at 8 a.m. from my time here. And we put together the Oceania Women's Network satellite. And then we put out an RFP, and we became then one of the first and largest, still today, shareholders in Pacific, which we launched our own satellite on December 16th last year, 2019, from Cape Canaveral, the largest commercial satellite in the world. And we're bringing high throughput broadband internet to all of the islands in the Pacific for education, for government, for hospitals, for saving lives with the climate change. And now also with the COVID, our satellite is being used to restart those economies. And, all of this has been done by women. First of all, even though I did not study, satellites or engineering at the university, I really was in the best school in the world because I was living every single day, with a gentleman who was building the first satellites for the United States. And so I think it is very important to know your stuff. Quite frankly, I probably know more than most engineers do about space and about satellites, just because I've lived it every day. So you need to know what you are doing, and you need to have expertise and knowledge. And then the second thing is that you have to have a vision. And for me, my visions have never been to make money. That's probably why I'm really not rich. But my vision has been to bring about change for the good. And so every time I did a new satellite project, and I used satellites because I knew them and I knew what we could accomplish with them. But whether it was freedom of choice for Astra, whether it was, universal telecommunications with Iridium, whether it was enabling mothers to communicate with mothers around the world with Europe Online, whether it was bringing, life-saving technology to islands in the Pacific, whether today I'm working with, space situational awareness for space debris. It's always been the big picture. And then also, it is very important to make a good business plan. And I always tell all entrepreneurs, don't do the business plan for the investors. Do the business plan for you. So in other words, if you say, okay, I'm going to get this many clients in this many years at this amount of money, you have to really look at that and say, can I really, really do this? And then also, you need to have a plan where you can make money. I always talk about personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is responsibility to the shareholder, to yourself, to the universe, to all of the stakeholders, and to the ecosystem. This is personal responsibility. This is what drives me. And I think this is what, is driving young women in particular today. And then, my dad always said, it's hard to soar like an eagle if you're surrounded by turkeys. And, one time I was in a mess and he came and he helped me. But he said, Candace, I'm not going to help you anymore if you don't always surround yourself with good people. And so, I am the leader in just about everything that I do. That's, my job is to move mountains, and that's what I do.
Okay.
But you must surround yourself with people who are actually even better than you are. And so when, Act in Space came to me, and because at that time, I was the president of Eban, European Business Angels Network, and I had started Eban Space. So when they came to me and they said, can we do something with you? I said, well, I'd like to start a women entrepreneurship prize, and I'd like to have Eban Space sponsor that. And indeed, that is what we are doing. So this year will be our third sponsorship of the Women Entrepreneurship Prize at the ActInSpace. And I basically, want to tell all young women, first of all, you can do it. Second of all, space is an amazing sector to be active in. And third, there are so many things that can be done today in space. I would like to, I do Saturday morning Skypes for young satellite entrepreneurs around the world or for young women entrepreneurs. And so I would like to offer that in addition to our sponsorship of the Women Entrepreneurship Prize, that I would be very pleased to mentor for 1 hour young women space entrepreneurs. And I'm very much looking forward to the ActInSpace, competition, and to, congratulating the winners for the Women Entrepreneurship Prize for ActInSpace.